Hello and welcome. My name is Scott Suskovic. I'm pastor at Christ Lutheran Church, and welcome to this podcast that we call Deeper Dive, in which we take a look at the previous Sunday's sermon and go at a deeper level for a great conversation. We're glad you're here.
Hey, welcome to Deeper Dive. I'm Pastor Ryan here with
Pastor Adrian.
And we're going to dive a little deeper into everybody's favorite topic, suffering.
Ding, ding, ding. That's right, Pastor Ryan. I appreciate how you brought that up, that we've been talking about living hope, and then you get to bring in suffering. Aren't we excited? But then you did say you were excited to talk about it.
I truly am excited about suffering. And this is a really important topic for a Christian.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, it's something that really, I think, for most of us feels like it defines our lives. And we experience a lot of it, different degrees, different seasons. And it's something we struggle with, just theologically, why it happens. So what was it about that made you say you were happy to? Just that it's pervasive? Or?
Well, yeah, so the first is, right, I tried to overwhelm everybody in the sermon with a reference to suffering in every book of the New Testament. Now, if you were paying attention, then you would notice that I missed Ephesians. I am human somehow. So shout out to Carl for calling me out in all the good ways that I missed Ephesians. We were having a conversation. He said, yeah, it is in almost all of the books. I went, no, Carl, it's in all of the books. He said, well, and so,
is that what happened?
So if you were paying attention, then you noticed that I missed Ephesians. And you can go to Ephesians 3, where Paul talks about his suffering, or you can go to Ephesians 6, where Paul talks about how we have to struggle against the forces in this world. And Paul mentions all these different forces. But yeah, so there are many kinds of suffering in our life. And the one that we really want to pay attention to as Christians isn't the chaotic one, right? That's often the one we think about. That's a real one. Someone gets sick, some horrible thing happens, hurricanes, earthquakes, car accidents, those kinds of things, right? Those are the chaotic ones. That's not the kind of suffering that we're talking about. That's not the kind of suffering in the New Testament anyway that we're talking about. And the other one is self-inflicted ones. Now those are the best ones, because you look in the mirror and you go, hold on, let me see if I can do it. You ready? Here, this is the sound of self-inflicted suffering.
Head against the wall.
Head against the wall. That was my head on the microphone. Yeah, where you know that you did it to yourself, or at least you should.
Yeah.
I think that's the suffering that happens, and forgive me, but I think that's the suffering that happens when we're in our teens and our 20s, right? Where people love the drama, and they don't recognize the bad influences in their life, and they find themselves, shooting themselves in the foot, right?
Yeah.
Those are problems.
Right. That's so true.
Did you ever have one of those in your life where you shot yourself in the foot?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I've had lots, unfortunately. And I probably still carry it on today beyond my 20s. So let's see, some good self-inflicted sufferings. Well, we've talked about this before, and I mean, even biblically, thinking, reading more into the cultural context of Paul being like, women shouldn't go into ministry, and being like, oh, maybe I need to really rethink this. And, instead of delving into community and being like, let's hash this out together, help me. I really struggled with it for a long time. And I think that kind of, you need to just support yourself 100%. And when God's calling you, you just go for it.
You think that was self-inflicted, though, somehow? That feels like not self-inflicted.
It doesn't?
No, I think that's actually what the beauty of women's liberation is a kind of way that we're making ourselves aware of the ways in which these things are just handed to us. And then isn't this the essence of the Me Too movement, where women said to themselves, it's not my fault, right? I can step out, right?
Yeah, so, solidarity.
Yeah, no, I was going to say stuff
interesting.
Adrian, I smoked for a decade. That's self-inflicted stupidity. That's where I was going, right? Like over-imbibing, right? And you wake up with a hangover. That's dumb.
Okay, I see. I get where you're going now, Pastor Ryan.
No,
okay, I just went straight for, okay.
You're just so deep. You're always so considerate. No, I don't know. My wife is lactose intolerant, and every night in our house is pizza movie night. And then if she forgets to eat the lactase, right? That's self-inflicted pain.
I see our own decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, tons of those. I can't even name them, Pastor Ryan. There's so many of them.
Yeah, drive it. You're like, I can make it to the gas station, and then you get back in the car, and you parked on a hill, and the car doesn't start because
Yep.
you couldn't make it to the gas station.
Not charging your phone, and
Nope,
at
there's
the
one.
time not having car chargers in
Oh,
the
sure.
car or your charger with you. So, yeah, and I wonder even like Martin Luther. I mean, he had some
Oh.
self-inflicted suffering going
Okay,
on.
where
He
you
did
going?
that to himself. I mean, he was punishing himself all the time for being sinful when he. I mean, yes, we are in bondage to sin, but like he thought, when he got it from the confession kneeler, he had a thought that was intrusive and he couldn't control it. He didn't like it. He went
Yeah.
back and he would, flagellate himself and hurt himself. Like those
Yeah.
weird things that we do to like mortify the flesh.
You are
Those aren't
dude,
good.
those are really, yeah. Okay, I'm over here with the flip it, and you're like, no, this is the name of the podcast is Diving Deeper, Ritzman. We're diving deep. All right, here we go. Good. Yeah, those
No,
are
I like
those are the
yours.
real ones, right? Yeah. Okay, so those are the ones that we can beat ourselves up on. They're real, but that's not. Well, maybe the Lutheran one is, but that's not really what Christ is talking about. That's not what we're trying to get at when we talk about biblical suffering. The biblical New Testament suffering says that that we will suffer for Christ. Right. In fact, you have this. Did you have the verse here? It was chapter 4. I think it was verse 1 and 2. Right. To be. Man, look at me, not prepared. I got to get my Bible
You are
out.
so prepared, Pastor Ryan. Well, we have Ephesians 3:6. Are you talking about the mystery through the gospel?
No, I wanted to get into that verse, right, about how we are done with suffering. Right? Since therefore Christ suffered in the flesh, arm yourself also with the same intention. For whoever has suffered in the flesh is finished with sin.
Oh, right. Yes.
Right? And so there is this neat kind of divergence here. Like you're gonna suffer in the flesh. Because whoever has suffered in the flesh has finished with sin. Well, how can those be, right? And Paul talks a little bit about that, and maybe you have a thought about that. Did you something come to mind?
Well, that was just an interesting point I thought that you made. You brought out in your sermon, and thinking about the people that Peter's speaking to, like how they have their Gentile or pagan friends, and they're supposed to stop the debauchery. And I love all like the licentiousness, all these like great
Licentiousness.
big words that they use.
Oh, you know what? And you used the word, you reconjugated the word, and it helped me understand it. The dissipations. Right? You should stop these dissipations. And then you said, I don't know, it was like Thursday or Wednesday, you said, yeah, these things, they just dissipate. Like, oh,
Yeah.
right. It's nothing. It's vanity. These are the things that just dissipate.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And it's like I guess that's hard because we're a disembodied culture, but we're very embodied culture too.
Say more.
I think we do a lot of body focused things, but I don't know if we really feel like we abide in our bodies like we could.
Wow, we are a very body-focused people, but then you're saying that somehow we try and get out of our bodies?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of like dissociation with our
Yeah.
bodies, and
Yeah.
like in church, I think we know that we have bodies, but there's always been this weird relationship with the body and the soul. Like the two, somewhere in history, they just became separate. I think it was
Right.
Plato. Like he was just like, they're separate.
No, it
and
was
so we
Plato,
think they
you're
are.
right.
And so, but we were clapping, we're snapping and clapping and kind of dancing a little bit in worship. So we're getting there. But I think that's what makes it feel like they're separate too. Like you have to leave the sinful flesh, like the flesh. But you've made this point before, Pastor Ryan, that the flesh doesn't really just mean your body.
Right.
It's everything that's against God.
Yeah, that's the
That's it,
thing.
isn't it?
Yeah, and that's exactly what you were getting at when you were saying, all of these things, right? The licentiousness, right? All of those ways in which we are pulled, right? Those aren't the flesh against the spirit. The flesh is the world. That's what Paul says, right? The flesh is the world. And I'm going to tell you that's the cultural systematic problem. And our cultural systematic problem is to tell us that we don't have to suffer. That we can have a perfect designer life and have all of the things set in place. And if you do suffer, one, don't put it on your Facebook or Instagram, right? Because you can't do that. And two, then you must be doing it wrong because there can't be any suffering.
Yeah.
And I think that's blasphemous.
Yeah, that was fascinating when you were talking about blasphemy. And that was a way I hadn't thought of it before. Will you say more about it?
Yeah. So if you are serving Christ, right? If your life is in Christ, and someone says to you, "Hey, you shouldn't suffer," right? You should come and do. And for Paul, it was come and do these things, right? These come drinking and carousing and reveling and doing all these things, right? But it could be any of those things, right? That's not an exhaustive list. So if you're going to go do something that is against Christ, that's blasphemy. If I'm serving Christ and now you're telling me that I don't have to serve Christ or I shouldn't serve Christ, you have attacked Christ. That's what he means by blasphemy. And so and this is the thing I love to point out. We can't get lost in this too much, but Satan doesn't attack us with pitchforks. He attacks us with couches.
Yes, and comfort.
And comfort.
And protection. Actually, what's most disturbing about how you framed that, which is so true, is that it comes across as care.
Yeah.
Don't do that. That'll hurt you. You're putting yourself in danger. Don't go to that march. Don't whatever it is, ABC.
Yeah, don't sit in the traffic. Don't raise your giving, right? Don't take your schedule. My wife and I, right, here's another one. This is the struggle in our household is how do we have balance? And I have kids, which means they want all my time. And I have a job, which means, look, actually, I'll be honest, the church doesn't want all my time. But it could. I want it to. That's the problem, is I want it to. And so my wife has to call me. But now, okay, my daughter wants to go and do the McPie stuff on Tuesdays. Well, that was like our one day. To be chill and not have nothing going on. Yeah. And so now, okay, we're going to do that. Okay, well, that's the struggle. That's what it looks like. And so the human in me wanted to say, nope, too much. Can you imagine that? The pastor saying too much. But that was where I was. Also, I was tired and I wanted to go to sleep.
Yes. Well, and I think that's healthy, Pastor Ryan. I really do. And nothing is wrong with that. I think that I love your point. We have to be unreasonable, but that's also where you have to watch for burnout. You have to say you can't go too far, because I think you are unreasonable in the best way, and I love that about you, Pastor Ryan. There are certain ways that you go all the way for Christ. You do. I see that in your ministry and your preaching, and
like Luther Vandross. I want to drive that van for you.
You are, yeah. You're one of our drivers, and you brought up the conspiracy of CMS. I'm just kidding about middle school
but back to the systematic thing, right? Is that the way that the world would pull us away from God are all of the easy and obvious things that we don't think are awful, right? If somebody came up to you in a red suit and smelled of sulfur and had a weird tail and told you, come follow me, right? You wouldn't do that. But if somebody came up to you and cracked a beer and was like, hey, have a seat, you might do that.
Yeah.
Right? Monday Night Football sounds pretty good. Okay.
That's right.
So this gets at this idea that systematically we will suffer. And it kind of gets at that Mark, what is it? Luke 16. I was about to say Mark 16. It's like, no, that's the end of Mark. That can't be right. No, Luke 16, right? To have two masters. You can't serve them both.
Yeah.
And so there will be things that you're going to suffer for. So choose who you're going to suffer for.
Yes, that line, because the gospel, it was from Matthew. It was Matthew 5, but it's like, you will suffer, but what will you suffer for? Because it's inevitable.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really interesting highlight about there are decisions, like we're saved by the grace of God, but that doesn't mean that what we do doesn't matter. Like if we take that beer and sit down, I'm not going to church, I'm going to do this instead. Or those things that you brought in, that devotional component, that if you're feeling detached or you're not growing in that way, you're not suffering. But what would you say to someone who says that I suffer enough, I don't want to suffer anymore?
Well, the first I would ask is what kind of suffering, right? Remember, that's how we started, right? Is it chaos? Is it self-inflicted? Is it just relational? I mean, there's lots of ways that we suffer, but are you suffering for Christ? And so then maybe the question is, well, what if you're a refugee, right? Just because I'm suffering doesn't mean that my suffering, I need to have more suffering. So that's the first thing. What kind of suffering are you doing here? And then the second is, I would tell you, is it's not optional. So to a refugee, I would say, well, look, you're going to suffer. That's how that looks. But you have to have your faith too. You can't just not have that. So then, and this gets to Luther Vandross. So then how is it as a community, if the system is making you suffer as a refugee or a woman, right? Right? You have
or a middle schooler.
Or a middle schooler.
Yep.
Okay, well then where's the church in that? How can you have somebody help take your burden, right? Or maybe if you have bandwidth, how can you take someone's burden? So let's just look at, and we do this as pastors, when someone comes to the church and they want a handout, right? They're in suffering. And then so we have that conversation. What does that look like? Okay, have you made right decisions? That's usually what the conversation is really about, right? How do we get here? Okay, now are you going to the places to help you get out of the systematic ways in which you are suffering? And then if you've kind of met all of those, then maybe we've got something for you, right? A card to a Walmart
Lion
or something.
gas card
or a gas card. That's right. Yeah. But then what are we doing, right? We're actually talking about the suffering that person's going through. Okay. So then that's what I would say to somebody is what kind of suffering? How do we get here? How do we get out of it? And then what can be done in the middle? And in the meantime, right? It is the card to Walmart to help. The church is going to take on some suffering for you.
Yeah, that's true. So a lot of discernment in that then, really. Discernment of suffering, even though some of it may be somewhat mysterious. But I would imagine that, we want to be discerning about what kind of suffering we're doing. And then, make that decision like getting back in there and suffering for Christ.
And so I think that's right. That's a good little cap on the end of it. And so we've got more coming. We're going to wrap up our series
on living hope, and we are looking at going beyond the necessity of suffering to never giving up, never giving in. So we're going to look at how, when we know we're suffering for Christ, what's the outcome of that? And when you're feeling like a rubber band just about to snap, what can we do?
What can be done in the end to never give up?
Never give up, never give in.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to that on Sunday. And I hope that this podcast left you well. If you want some bonus points, go ahead and watch the movie Galaxy Quest. Never give up. Never surrender.
Never surrender.
We'll see you Sunday.